Welcome to Shareholder Q&A, a production of Agoracom in which we allow shareholders to ask questions online on Agoracom's verified forums in order to get the CEOs to answer them directly right here through video. With us today, he needs no introduction. I'm happy to have him back. Steve McAuley, CEO of Empower Clinics, trades on the CSC under CBDT. For our friends in the US, EPWCF, and for our friends in Frankfurt under 8EC. Normally I do the big introduction here if it was a Beyond the Press Release or CEO interview, but this is a shareholder Q&A, so there's no intro necessary. Steve, welcome back. How are you?
George, thank you for having me on again. Doing well. We're certainly busy. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, let's get right into it and try to help update people and our followers. We've got a lot to cover.
All right. So before we get into the questions, the first question is this: investors think that they can judge where the company is by stock price, right? How is the company going irrespective of stock price?
Well, things have never been better from a business standpoint or business development standpoint. Our balance sheet is in great shape, as everybody knows. That hasn't changed one bit. It is funny with stock price because if the stock price, when the stock price had that spike above $2, we weren't any better at that time than where we are now. And if the stock price is down in the 60-cent range, we're not any worse than we were before. There unfortunately, it's not a direct correlation to how our business is performing and working toward our long-term objectives. And but it's hard. I certainly have empathy to what is happening in the market at given points in time. So I respect when there may be concern or some sort of sentiment that's not 100% positive. But please, everybody, bear in mind our operations are performing, our team members are performing, and our pipeline is as strong as it's ever been.
Is there? Yeah, because people think that the stock market is a speedometer. If the stock is at 250, the company's moving at 250 kilometers an hour, it's just flying. If the stock price at 60, it's just trudging along at 60 kilometers an hour. So they must be an indication of speed. You've cleared that up, but I'll even ask you even more blunt question. Are there any parts of this company where you're experiencing problems, whether it's Kai Lab or the products with Kai Saliva or the clinics? Is there something the market doesn't know about something going wrong or not according to plan? And I'm not talking about imperfection. I'm talking about, oh man, we thought we're going to have 30 clinics. We're only going to have 2. Is there any part of this that's not going right? And maybe somebody out there knows something the rest of us don't.
No, not at all. I tell you, the only part that I would like to see go better is, the partners that we're working with, speed up their turnaround time on getting us back signatures, whether that's, working with landlords or working with pharmacy partners or working, with our pipeline of, new commercial testing deals that we're doing. So we're doing all that we can do, but we don't always control what happens on the other side and how they go through either their legal or their tax reviews or whatever the case may be. So I would certainly hope for more speed. That would be nice from our other partners, but we just stay diligent and we have fortitude and we just keep churning over every single day with with our goals in mind. But the fundamentals of how we're doing are never better. When you look back of the my involvement over the last almost 2.5 years, it's a fundamentally different and improved company with a really clear path forward.
Irrespective of stock price, when you're looking 12 months forward, and how great of a company you think you're capable of building in February, and you're looking 12 months forward today in May, and how great of a company you think you're going to be building. Has that vision changed at all?
No, of course not. Of course not. I mean, I think that we, more than ever, I feel like we really understand, the main pillars of our business and what we're hoping to, grow into. So for us, it just continues to be our focus on execution. our focus on business development and developing, new big opportunities, whether it's, getting, awarded locations from our pharmacy partners, or deciding that we will take on other locations on our own, whether it's, getting more commercial relationships through Kai Medical for our Kai test products. And then, of course, finally, we're constantly working on acquisition opportunities. And so, but all of that, it takes a lot of energy and effort. But I do feel that we have the best organizational structure and the best team that we've ever had. And I'm very proud of the work that everybody is doing.
So it's fair to say growth prospects for the company as strong as ever, not tripping up anywhere. Everything is going, and you know where you're going to be at the end, but it doesn't mean that's a straight line. So there are always going to be little dips, and you're going to go. But any doubt as to, first quarter, second quarter of 2022, where Empower will be as a business, not as a stock price, but as a company.
Yeah, I mean, we have no doubts of where we're going. We really do. We think we have, stretch goals for ourselves, but we think the goals are attainable. And we certainly just keep working hard every day, in spite of any dip or blip along the way, or any sentiment that might have changed for a small period of time. And so we have to look past that, but we have to also respect shareholders' positions, and I think we do a pretty good job. I think we do it maybe better than most, of making sure that we're communicating often. We're communicating with as much transparency as we are allowed to. And we attempt to get back to really every inquiry that comes in, and we get many inquiries every single day. So it's not an insignificant amount of work, but we believe it's important work, because we really respect and enjoy the support of our shareholders that we have. So and long may it continue.
And lastly, look, you're held in such high regard by your shareholders for what you accomplished before you came to Empower, what you've accomplished while at Empower. But sometimes, like all superheroes, no one's perfect. And in your situation here, and we won't go to the details because we'll go into the details in the shareholder questions, but your annual financials were delayed. Mm-hmm. Should investors view that as a flaw, which is, oh man, the company just failed to do something? Or is that an imperfection where, I mean, I've seen it several times. Great companies, sometimes they just can't get financial statements in on time. How should investors be viewing this misstep?
Yeah, I mean, it's disappointing. I mean, I'm as disappointed as anybody. But we're dealing with, I think the thing to keep in mind is, fundamentally we're still, generally a small cap company with developing resources. And, we kind of have this double-edged sword, is that we want to grow and we want to deliver growth for our good shareholders. But that growth kind of comes with a price, is that you take on more. And in this particular case, we had 2 acquisitions of private companies close in the fourth quarter, and one right at literally at the end of the fourth quarter. And these companies have never been through audits before. They've never had this type of accounting structure put on top of them. And it's difficult. And it might appear like, from January 1st to April 30th is a lot of time to get through audit. It's not. It is a massive undertaking, but no excuses. We must do a better job. We must figure out how to resource this in a better way going forward, because we fully intend to keep on growing through acquisition. So, we are going to have to just get better. And I'll take that responsibility to, help us get better, point us in the right direction, provide more capital resources for these areas, so that, as these I guess moments in time come up again in the future, we're much more prepared. Thankfully, now we have better capital runway. We didn't have that capital runway even at the beginning of the fourth quarter. So we were pretty tight at that time, if everybody recalls, and
That would be October 1st, just to make sure everyone knows what the
exactly,
timeline we're talking about.
exactly. So you would like to start your preliminary audit processes at the beginning of the fourth quarter, anticipating to be well advanced as you get into the first quarter. But it takes significant resources, literally cash that has to be paid out to accounting firms and audit firms at that time for them to even commence. So we're not in that position anymore. We're in a much better position, and but we must do a better job going forward.
And I'm glad you said that, because you're right. But that is part of the learning process. And I'm not letting you off the hook, but I will remind people that what we've seen just in the last few years, Samsung had made such an error on their phone line, on one of their phone, that they had to scrap the entire model for an entire year. They lost an entire cycle. Apple, when it came out, Apple Maps had such a bad glitch that literally, unfortunately, some people lost their lives. People drove into a lake thinking that they were driving down the street in the middle of the night. So the point of it is, as public companies, we can't always be perfect, and perfection is not the standard anyways, I don't think. But we got to be reminded, just to get perspective from shareholders, that sometimes stuff is going to go a little wrong. And for some major companies, all the resource in the world, Samsung and Apple, all the resource on the planet, and they had monumental failures. In the case of Empower, I like the fact that you're taking ownership of it and taking responsibility, but you've missed a filing deadline for financials, which are important, but relatively speaking, that's not outside of the norm of things that can possibly happen to good companies. So I just wanted to bring that up. And without further ado, let's jump into some of the questions, because we got a lot. Sure. And by the way, everyone should know that Steve is in Arizona for a reason related to all this. And then he's gonna be hopping on a plane, getting back out. So we're gonna get through as many of the questions as we can. And we'll save the rest of the questions to be answered online. First question comes from Grit. And look, I had the guys put this first because I want to make sure the shareholders understand that you're not afraid of the tough questions first. So Grit says, Steve was repeatedly asked about the timing of financials, and on several occasions referred to end of April. I would have expected him to have some sense that the financials were likely to be delayed, given the reasons he provided for missing the deadline. Why did he not foreshadow at least the potential for delay and avoid, or at least soften, the inevitable negative impact on both share price and the trust of investors? I think the market would have been much more understanding, instead of an after hours news release on the Friday deadline.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah, again, it's a very challenging situation to navigate through. The concept of not being ready, and then all of a sudden like leaking information about it, or saying when we don't fully know. You got to keep in mind that we attempt to get to the filing deadline on time, but as in our particular case, particularly in the last 2 weeks, there were quite a few numerous additional items that were put on us from our audit group. And again, we tried as hard as we possibly could. We certainly did make sure to take advantage of some technical status, which is the management cease trade order, in an effort to protect shareholders' interest in the event that we would miss the filing deadline. That in itself actually is quite a significant amount of work to get through and prepare. It takes legal support. We have to work with the securities commissions on that application. I am grateful that we did get approved for our MCTO. That means the stock does not get halted. So I'm halted. Our CFO is halted, meaning we can't, trade in the stock. I'm not a trader in the stock anyhow, so it's kind of somewhat irrelevant. But that's the technical.
But just in case something goes wrong, there's no way for the captain to jump off the ship and abandon everybody by selling stock. You've all got management. All of you have got management cease trade orders now. So
absolutely,
everyone's in the same boat with investors, which is a great sign.
Yeah, we are halted. We play by the rules on this stuff, and these rules from the securities commissions are in place to protect shareholders' interests. And so we just made sure that we understood, what it takes to get that technical, MCTO in place. And unfortunately, we had to take advantage of it because we weren't going to make that filing deadline. And some of this stuff is really making last minute decisions, and we have to live with those decisions. We don't always get them right. Perhaps I think again we do a pretty good job on a lot of the decisions and the communications that we make. And in this case, it appears to have created a bit of unfortunate sentiment because there was so much anticipation of getting those numbers out on time.
Do you have any sense for, and I'm not going to ask for a specific timeline, but are you able to provide shareholders any sense of when the annuals might be filed, give or take?
Yeah, so we're working we're targeted on, as you see from the MCTO notice, that May 21st or sooner is, what everybody has in their sights and they're working toward. And then keep in mind, simultaneously, we're running the first quarter financials, but they're not audited. We control the first quarter financials. So we literally are doing, both paths at the same time.
In parallel.
So what we would expect is going to happen is it's going to be rapid fire, year-end fourth quarter, immediately, very quickly followed by first quarter results. And then we're back on our normal rhythm from there.
And I'll just ask you if any concerns that any major concerns that you're not going to be able to make, that May 21st kind of deadline?
Right now, nobody's flagging anything to me. So, we have to provide an update every 2 weeks. So we'll have an update coming at some point next week. I can't recall the exact date that will be, but I believe it's in the calendar week of next week. So there'll be a press release to update the market. That's one of the requirements of the MCTO.
Okay. Tom Zum, and thanks, Grit. Thanks for asking the tough questions. Tom Zum asks, so you've already answered that. So when will we see Q1? You're in control of those.
Yeah.
So, and then the sub question is, any chance Q1 will be delayed as well?
It's only delayed to the extent that fourth quarter is year end is delayed. I can't issue first quarter before year end. Right. So so that will that will be the sort of the guide on that one. But we have until May 30th is the filing deadline of the first quarter, and so we've again we control how that path. We don't require the auditors to sign off on those.
Yeah, trust me, for everybody at home, I've spoken to enough CEOs the last 24 years who pull their hair out sometimes during audits of even the most basic companies, because auditors are under really strict rules and sometimes can ask you really tough minutia, that kind of stuff. So I can only imagine for you guys, but that's good to know. And Tom Zum ends off with, how's clinic construction at the 3 locations? Any delays because of the Ontario lockdown?
It's really our current status is more about all the documentation. We've got our construction team. So I mean the lockdowns certainly generally slow down lead times right now for really everything. And we also know, I mean, really throughout North America, there are, shortages of supplies, construction materials of all sorts. So, it's a bit tough for us. There again are some things that are out of our control in terms of those lead times. But as we get a bit further into the quarter, then I think we'll be in a position to kind of, update everybody with a little bit more accuracy of when we think certain of the locations, those first openings will take place.
All right. Believer 35 asks, a couple of companies have their saliva test in Rexall. Does Empower, is Empower still working with Rexall to do the same?
Absolutely. Yeah, nothing's changed on our path with partners like Rexall on the product side, or other pharmacies in Canada, and also we've got conversations started with pharmacy partners in the US as well. One of the requirements in Canada is to have our bilingual packaging available. And so we've fully designed our bilingual packaging. In fact, a couple of our good partners, including our pharmacy partner, helped us validate the translations for accuracy. So, it's really really true partnerships working, together to, bring this good product to market for Canadians. So the new bilingual boxes are at the printer as we speak. And, we hope to have those ready, relatively soon. And then they will be delivered over to all the various partners that we're working with. So right now, we were notified of the one saliva test kit product that was going live. So we're fully aware and, in communication with the partners on that. And, we're hopeful that, they'll be ready to take on our product as well and put it on the shelf and make it as another, great choice for consumers.
Can Steve talk about the delays with the lab expansion?
Not really any delays with the lab expansion. We are in. Construction has started. We have issued purchase orders. We've got our architects. We've got our designers. We're buying furniture. So I don't really feel like we have a delay in that work. Again, like we just talked about with clinics, lead times on construction materials is delayed throughout North America. So, we are certainly.
Yeah, we're hearing that about lumber all over the place.
Lumber,
Number one is
steel,
lumber.
aluminum, materials. So, we certainly have a little bit of that to factor in, but, we're literally in the facility. We have possession of it. The work is underway, and again, I can give some updates, probably in another couple of weeks on what that progress and sort of turnaround time looks like, or grand opening, I'll call it. But we're definitely, there's no real delays here. We're in there already.
All right. And then generally speaking, can Steve give us an update on clinic rollouts? And now it says clinic rollout, leases, opening dates, acquisitions, number of clinics. That's I don't expect you to go into specifics of all of those, but in general, how is that clinic national expansion, or or the whole clinic expansion strategy moving along as of today?
Good. And we really, it's kind of being approached on three fronts, right? So we have, our pharmacy partner groups where, starting in the province of Ontario, we know, which ones are coming right now. We are waiting on the receipt of those lease agreements from the partner. So there'll be some pending announcements on that. And I don't like to pre-announce, addresses until, we have the leases. People Google the locations, people do drive-bys, and, we have to be disciplined here. We're also opening some direct clinics on our own, and we're also opening some new locations with independent pharmacy partners as well, where appropriate. And then finally, it's really working on the acquisition pipeline. So we have, the deepest, count of, potential, clinics in acquisition than we've ever had. And they move along at various stages. Some deals, because they're larger, take quite a bit more time to say negotiate and work through, and others are a little bit smaller, easier to get through. But everybody should be assured that we have a very deep pipeline of clinics coming in those different types of approaches.
So you're pretty happy with the progress of not just the clinic rollout today, but all the things that are setting up future clinics. And
Yeah.
I remember you talked about one time, we'll see a point when clinics open and the new addresses are announced, those open and new addresses announced. So there'll almost be a constant seeding and harvesting. You on that cycle? You're confident that you guys are going to?
Oh yeah,
that cycle.
We are completely on that cycle. We will remain on this cycle for the foreseeable future, looking years out, right? So that cycle is happening. Again, as we sort of touched on at the beginning, I would sure, love for signatures and, legal reviews and landlords and what have you to move at the rate of speed that we want to move. But again, we don't always control that. But I am, to answer the question directly, I am pleased with the sort of scale and magnitude of what we have in front of us here as we're in the second quarter. And I think it bodes well for the balance of this year and into 2022.
And those are the good problems to have, right? The bad problems are we can't find locations, we can't find partners, nobody wants to work with us, and we're still pounding the pavement. Whereas it sounds like you have that part you're not concerned with. Now it's just a case of papering everything and just moving the paper along to move the clinics along.
It absolutely is. So, again, we are pleased with what we've been able to develop in terms of our pipeline. It's really matching our strategy that we've laid out with Dr. Jordan and Dr. Aviv particularly, and they've done a great job in building that pipeline. And again, I just take this position that until we have everything kind of buttoned up, we're just not announcing addresses. But again, everybody should be, calm and confident about the depth of our pipeline on clinics for the year.
And in that vein, I've got a few people here I can see. So, Rexall, how's this? So I'm going to kind of ask a catch-all here. How's the state of the Rexall partnership, both most importantly on the clinic side and even on the product side? How's your relationship? Last time we'd spoken, you talked about you're in regular communication with, I can't remember if you said the president, the chairman of Rexall Canada, but with management, tete-a-tete, like they say. How is that relationship progressing?
The relationship's the best it's ever been. They're a wonderful organization to work with. I do have regular one-on-one updates with Nick Caprio, who's the president of Rexall in Canada. Dr. Jordan and Dr. Aviv are really working now with two kind of components at Rexall. One, the facility side, the medical clinic team over there. They have they literally talk every day. These guys have built a very substantial working relationship with their counterparts. We also are working with the chief merchandising officer and his team, who are responsible for all things products. So we're working on our Kai Saliva test kit and the potential of getting that, in a pilot program for distribution. We're talking to them about rapid test kits for Canada. We're also talking to them about our future plans as it relates to Kai Care and our desire to bring to market a whole variety of direct-to-consumer based testing products. So we've got a very interesting long-term sort of product pipeline building with them as well. But again, these things take time. They take time to develop for sure. They're a very big organization. They have their procedures. And, we, of course, work within those procedures and processes. But again, we're diligent and we're going to keep working at it.
And that's the part that some shareholders miss sometimes, which is just because Empower and GeorgeCom have a relationship, GeorgeCom has its processes, you have yours, and they sometimes just need to gel together and one waits for the other. And there's no way to rush that. There's just no way to do it. You can't call up GeorgeCom and say, George, can you guys just move this thing through? It's like, hey, we have our internal we're a big company. And in order to make sure that all projects in the end are successful, we got to make sure that it first goes through level 1 and then our level 2 and then our form and their compliance and that's just the way it is. But that doesn't detract, right, Steve, from the fact that what you plan to have built in the next 12, 18, 24 months is the good news. It's already in place. It's just a case of getting through this and just playing ball and 12 to 18 months from now, I don't think we'll care.
Well, of course. I mean, it's when you work with, I'll take a step back. We want to be at the table with the biggest brands and the biggest partners. I have worked tirelessly to position ourselves to have the cachet to be at the table. And we're seeing that happen. We are garnering greater and greater credibility with large brands because when they do their preliminary due diligence on us, they look at our professionalism, they look at our market improvement, they look at our cash position, they look at our products. Don't think for a second that we don't get scrutinized like crazy on every single opportunity that comes our way,
Absolutely.
right? And
We all think Steve McAuley is great and Empower is great, but new partners, new companies, right?
yeah, they don't know us.
They're just going to tear you apart from stage one. They like you, they want to do business with you, but now they're going to go through the vetting process and make sure every single thing is where it's supposed to be. That's just the way it is.
It is. And as we conquest more transactions and we have a longer list of high quality, credible companies who have vetted us, signed with us, and move forward with us, it helps that business development process going forward. Because if brand A is comfortable with them, well, we're likely to be comfortable as well. And it's kind of like a snowball effect. So we're starting to feel that happen to us. And I think it's quite exciting. And again, I just have to ask everybody to have patience, as required, but also have confidence and know that we are gaining credibility in the marketplace, in the key pillars of what we do, whether it's healthcare centers or whether it's Chi tests and our whole testing platform that we're taking to market.
And I want to add my 2 cents in there that I've had the fortune in the last 20 plus years of having some really great wins, some 6 and 7 digit wins in the small cap space. Not one of them didn't involve this kind of process. Great plan, great capital behind it, great team, but then biz dev has to go through its natural cycle, and then investors will get agitated and you'll see weakness in things, and then they come back. So every single one of those has come with that. What always made the difference for me is, and I've said it online on a couple of Facebook groups and other places, as long as the business plan is intact, and by the way, I'm saying this generally speaking, not for Empower, so nobody thinks I'm giving financial advice, but in my past victories, thank God, some really great victories. In every one of those situations, yes, I hated the roller coaster, don't be wrong, I'm not impervious to it, but as I matured more and more, I cared a lot less, because the only question I'd ask myself is the business plan intact? Do they have the finance? Do they have the people? And they have a business plan? As long as that was intact, I stayed. There have been times when the business plan was no longer intact. I had to go.
Mm-hmm.
But at home, you have to decide, is the Empower business plan intact? And if it is, then if you would have got to your end goal in 12 months or 18 months, it doesn't really matter. At least that's my view, and not for Empower, because I don't want to give, but that's my view for the small cap world. It's just the way it goes. All right. So I want to add that 2 cents in. A question here about the MedX pilot for teledermatology.
Yeah.
That you're gonna begin in 2 of your clinics. Has that been able to start, or because lockdowns? And I think the last thing people want to do is have any, I don't want to call unnecessary, but look, we see a lot of elective surgeries being canceled, let alone scans. But I'll let you just give us.
Yeah, no. The answer is it has not commenced as of yet. So the moment that we are operational and we have this, we determine which sites we want to start with MedX, we're going to go live. We are very bullish on the potential of that technology, and we think it honestly should be in every one of our clinics, across our entire network. So more updates to come on that, but the answer is it hasn't started yet.
All right. Norwich Nick Wilson, better known as Nick. Hey, Steve, I'm sorry to hear we didn't get the DFW airport contract. Okay, I didn't hear one way or another on that. However, lots more opportunities available, as you've said. How's our relationship with Loop? I'm buying shares daily.
Very good. Yeah, we work very closely with Loop Insights on their developments. So Rob Anson, their CEO, and myself, we're kind of in very regular dialogue. And so we keep on sort of figuring out how we can bring each other into opportunities, us pulling them in or them pulling us in. So it's one of these, business development, conversations again. We're both groups are are keeping on trying to, conquest new transactions and cross refer each other as the client wishes, or as we can try to push the opportunity forward.
Scott Alexander, who's a great supporter on Facebook. Thanks for doing another one of these so soon, Steve. And thank you for continuing to be as open and honest with shareholders as you are legally allowed to be. Really good distinction there. I'm personally not dissuaded one bit by the delay in financials, and those who do need to calm down. It's as if they've forgotten the content of the last 20 news releases to know how good Empower is doing under your leadership. My only question is, and a little Loop related, have Empower and Loop discussed using the newly acquired Wallet Pass as a secure and reliable option to instantly deliver test results?
So actually, yes, it's a great observation and great question. So we, in fact, have successfully created an API with Loop Insights for the Wallet Pass. So the intention there was to get ourselves in a position at the technology layer where the results from our lab information system for a particular client could actually be pushed into the Wallet Pass for that client. To be able to create, that instant feedback on the Loop platform, which is basically, positive, hey, you can't move forward in the check-in, or negative, you're cleared, green light, you can move forward. So we actually did successfully complete those APIs.
Mike Banny's asking, perfect, because it's a perfect dovetail. How do you address integrity issues related to the Kai Saliva test? So when a test goes in under George Cholas, how do you or any of the partners know that that's actually George's saliva in there? How do you go about? How do you deal with that?
It's a very good observation. There aren't any guidelines that are being pushed down, related to that. We're having a lot of discussions right now about the concept of proctoring. And using telemedicine for
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, for virtual proctoring. We're actually in heavy discussions with a couple of prospect customers on that very point. So I feel like going forward, there is going to be more. It'll be more topical, but at this stage, there's no policies that are being pushed to us through authorities like the CDC or the FDA or Health Canada on the topic. There may be more coming, but in anticipation of dealing with these types of topics with potential customers, we've got a proctoring, dialogue going on our own. So I think just more to come on that topic.
Easy Tiger asks, greetings from the Empower Army. Greetings right back to you. And looking at breaking into establishing the Empower footprint in the U.S., what do you foresee as the biggest obstacle, i.e. acquiring, signing local medical professionals, competing against already established companies, etc.? So what's your biggest hurdle to establishing Empower in the U.S.?
Well, we've got a pretty solid footprint there right now. It's actually bigger and more entrenched in the U.S. than it is in Canada. We've just started in Canada in the first quarter of this year, so it's very new territory for us. We certainly will continue to leverage what we're doing in the medical diagnostic space with Kai Laboratory and the new direct-to-consumer Kai Care brand. That for us, I think, is going to be a really promising growth engine, and way beyond COVID-19 testing and where that goes. We're talking about a whole host or variety of direct-to-consumer test protocols, such as women's health or men's health, that can be delivered through kaitest.com or kaitest.ca in an e-commerce platform. We've launched our e-commerce spend now already. We started testing traffic last week. I think it was 1 week ago today. So in conjunction with Snow Agency, who we brought on, we're literally have 4 different campaigns that are being pushed through Google right now. We will start to turn on YouTube ads very shortly. And really, once we get sort of honed in on successful conversion procedures, then we'll start adding more spend to start to increase traffic and views and clicks and purchases. So that piece is really important for us. I will start to turn my attention back to health center locations in the US, kind of as we start to get through the second quarter and into the second half of the year. Acquisition will definitely be kind of a priority focus for us in the US with healthcare centers. So more to come on that. I don't have any more sort of guidance to give on that topic at the moment.
Yeah, otherwise you'd be breaking some rules.
Yeah, but we're not going to lose sight of that. There's, the U.S. market is very important for us. That's a massive market. It's very fragmented, and there's lots of opportunity.
Paul DeWolf's got a bunch of questions. You've answered some. He says, "Hi, Steve and George. Great to see you guys again." Thanks, Paul. Same to you. Any of the new possible acquisitions you talk about include clinics that would start to, he says, accumulate revenue? I'm assuming they want to say that would start to would they be accretive revenue from day one?
Oh, of course.
Of course.
Every acquisition is going to be accretive revenue. There's no doubt, and we'll leverage what we do with this combination of primary care with our medical doctors, in conjunction with paramedical services with those practitioners, and bring them together. But more important then is layering on unique healthcare technology, such as the medics, teledermatology services. Those become accretive, revenue generating, services as well. Not only is it very good for patients, but it also, it's good for our business model. So yeah, I mean, yes, in every case, these acquisitions are accretive to our revenue.
And easy to, Paul DeWolf, I think we answered some of the other questions there as opposed to clinic strategy and all that. Kai Medical, Renos, and Easy Tiger. We got that second one about what else they're going to do with Kai Tests, which is, as the company improves, they'll keep expanding, obviously, the marketing of Kai Tests. Crusader has just a stock market question. I'm your shareholder. I bought some stock with the intention to buy more and more. Unfortunately, since that time, I've lost almost 71% of my investment. Though I still believe in your company's success, what are you doing basically about this, and what's the reason for the fall since the end of February?
So the things that we can control are around execution and delivering growth items, and that's the biggest way that we can control kind of where the future is, and hopefully we start to get more of that response. We certainly had a lot of new followers show up. It created a lot of excitement. Our market got very strong. I feel like we had some negative catalysts that were out of our control, that really sort of knocked the market back down. But going back to where we started the conversation today, our business model is sound and is solid. And unfortunately, as a small cap company is moving from small to medium and growing, there are some ups and there's some downs, and there's some ups and there's some downs in the stock market itself. We have to have fortitude and continue working on delivering and executing on our plan. That's the biggest way that we can control where the future goes in our valuation. And I think finally, one of the most important things that we do is what we're doing right now. And that is communicating often, openly, transparently, using mediums like video, which is a very comfortable way for me to communicate. Those are things that we can control in the way that we run our public company. So you have my commitment that we will continue to use mediums like this to tell our story and to broaden our shareholder base, to keep liquidity. And when we keep liquidity and we keep the story out there, then over time your trend line goes where you want it to go, and that is, in our case, on the long term, upward.
Yeah, well said on that. Steve, I'm looking at my stopwatch and we're at about 45 minutes. And you told me you had 30 to 40 minutes before you had to get on your plane to get back home. We've still got more questions. And I think we got through a lot of the most important stuff already, which is great. We addressed the financials, Rexall, the clinics, expansion, all those things, share price, all those things. Can we make a commitment to everyone that there will be a part 2 to this video? Maybe we'll tape part 2 on Monday. We'll go through
Yes.
the rest of the questions for everybody
Yeah.
because
Oh, I'd be happy to. Be happy to.
yeah, because people
Great
did a
idea.
great job of posting all these great questions, and there's this is the most we've ever had. And instead of trying to rush them through, I think it'd be great to honor all our shareholders by just doing a part 2, and maybe we'll do that on Monday or so, give or take, guys. We're not making the commitment yet. We got to look at our schedules, but give or take earlier than Monday or Tuesday, we'll have part 2 out. Thank you, Steve. Thanks so much for on a Friday. Yeah, I know you're flying and addressing everybody. Have a safe flight. Looking forward to part 2, and have a great day.
Great. Thank you, George.
To everybody at home, shareholders, thanks for everything you've done. That was part 1. Look for part 2, but I hope you're happy with the answers you've gotten so far. And many, many thanks to the great contributions you're all making. See you on part 2.